On the phone, we have a new member of the Basketball Hall of Fame within the last couple of years. He played at UCLA. We're not going to say in what time it was. We'll say a short time ago. He also played for the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers, and Clippers. Hall of Famer Jamaal Wilkes. How you doing today?
I'm doing terrific. It's great to be with you and Elliott today.
It's great to have you on. I see you were born in Berkeley. How did you end up going to UCLA, or was it basically at that time all the great players went to UCLA?
Well, technically, I was born in Berkeley, but literally, I was just hatched there. When I was 9 months old, my parents left and relocated to the South and then through the Midwest, and I wound up in the Ventura, Santa Barbara area when I was 5 years old. So I grew up in Southern California, and it was at that time UCLA was where all the really top players wanted to be at least recruited, and if they were able to go there, wanted to go there. So I grew up in Southern California. I grew up, following UCLA, USC more so than I did Cal or Stanford.
When you were recruited, was it John Wooden who came to the house, or was it Gary Cunningham or somebody else?
It was Coach Wooden that came to the house to close the deal, but it was Denny Crum, who was still an assistant at UCLA before he went to Louisville and became a Hall of Fame coach, who actually came up and saw me play a couple times in high school. And then Coach came up and saw me play too, but it was Coach Wooden that came to the house and took us out to dinner.
When you started playing, were the freshmen playing at that time, or were they still ineligible to play?
We're still ineligible to play. It was actually my senior year, freshmen were eligible to play.
Now, when Alcindor, who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, started at UCLA, they had the freshman team, and they said that the freshman team could have beaten the UCLA varsity with him. How would your freshman team have done against the varsity?
We weren't quite as fortunate. No, his freshman team actually did beat the varsity. We played against, I was on the team with Bill Walton, the Hall of Fame player,
right.
center, and we played the varsity that had Sidney Wicks and Curtis Rowe and Henry Bibby. And they beat us pretty good. So we weren't quite as fortunate as Lou Alcindor's team.
What was it like playing at UCLA back in the 70s?
What was it like playing for UCLA?
Yes.
It was unbelievable, indescribable, just a memory that I grow more and more fonder of every day. First of all, Coach Wooden was he was a teacher, and he was very old school. He wasn't into self-hype, self-promotion like a lot of the coaches are today. He wasn't worried about money or contract. He was just focused on teaching his players basketball and, more importantly, teaching them character. It's hard and I understand, in today's world, it's really hard to believe that because everyone's so focused on me, and getting ahead, and rightfully so. I mean, rightfully so. It is competitive out there, but he was just so unique and such a role model that we didn't really understand or appreciate it at the time. Now, the basketball, going to practice, our practices were as good, if not better, than the games. We had great players from top to bottom. For example, Swin Nader, who never played center behind Bill Walton all his whole career, rarely played in college basketball, went on to a 15-year pro career, led both the NBA and ABA in rebounding. That just is an example of the kind of players we had and the quality practices that we had. But it all started with John Wood. He was just unbelievable.
How was he able to take all that talent, and his teams had a lot of great players, but every team had only one basketball? How was he able to get all those players to not be me first and be about the team?
Well, I can only give my opinion on that. I mean, I think part of it was he recruited certain types of guys. Now he wanted great ball players, and make no mistake about it. And some of them had to change their games or didn't play as much because they didn't buy into the team concept. But he was just, when I was there, he'd already won several championships with Lou Alcindor and Sidney Wicks. So, I mean, we would have given our right arms to be there and to play. So it was no problem for us to buy into the system. But he was really unique that way in that he was able to focus everyone on the team concept.
Did Denny Crum run the practices, or was it basically just John Wooden?
Now, Denny, Coach Crum, he recruited me out of high school, and my freshman year, which I, could not play, Gary Cunningham was our coach, and Denny was the assistant on the varsity. When I went to the varsity my sophomore year, Coach Crum left that year, so I never played for Coach Crum. And Coach Wooden, I mean, he ran the practice. I mean, he was the boss, and, he was very prepared. Number one, our practices were so efficient. We never had long, drawn-out practices. It was very tight, very prepared, very scripted. And, Coach Cunningham may have run some parts of it, but Coach would always be there watching up in the stands or teaching on the court. It was his program, no doubt about it.
Now, your jump shot had a very distinctive form. Did anybody ever try to change that?
Yes, Coach Wooden actually thought about it. After my sophomore year, the first week of practice, he called me over, and I was terrified because no one wanted to stand out. I mean, you just wanted to blend in, and he said, Keith, I want you to shoot some jump shots around the key, and I just was flabbergasted, and he actually rebounded for me, and I remember every pass was a perfect pass, and I shot the ball. I made like 95% of them, and then he called me over. He said, now, how do you release that ball? And he made me go through the whole thing, and how does it leave your fingertips? And then finally said, okay, you're dismissed. So years later, we laughed about it. He said he actually thought about it, but my start and my finish was textbook, and it was just in between. It was different, and I developed that as a young kid. I didn't even know I was doing anything different because I was a tall, skinny kid in a small basketball town, and I started playing with older guys at a very young age, and they would block my shot all the time, and I just developed that to get my shot off. So he did think about it, but no one else ever really seriously thought about it. Well, they never talked to me about it. I'm sure they may have thought about it, but they never talked to me about it.
How did Don Ford, your high school teammate, not end up at UCLA?
I'm sorry?
How did Don Ford, your high school teammate, not end up at UCLA?
I don't know. I have no idea. He went to New Mexico and later transferred to UCSB. I don't know what happened there.
Could you think it would have been a package deal? Because you guys were two of the top players there.
Yeah, we were. We had an outstanding season, and Don was a fine young player. But I don't have the insight there. I never asked Coach that, and I never talked to Don about it. So I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
Now, you're a teammate in college with Bill Walton. Did he turn you into a Grateful Dead fan or anything?
Well, Bill was. He didn't turn me into a fan, but I enjoyed their music. I'm not quite the diehard fan he is. I'm not addicted, but Bill was. He's an awesome basketball player. He's in the Hall of Fame, but he was a terrific teammate. I mean, he was so much fun and such a gregarious, social guy, and I love him. I love the guy on and off the court and what he's meant to my life, and he's just really, really special, a special person to me.
He didn't quite fit the mold of the John Wooden recruit. Here was this, wild red hair all over the place, beard, free spirit, not quite what you envision.
Yeah, I said on the outside, but he was number one. He's really a really solid character type guy, and it's I hear what you're saying, because later on his image really kind of spun out of control there till he started to reel it back in. But Coach Wooden did want top basketball players, which he was, and he comes from a really solid family. His mom and dad are just really solid of the earth people, and Coach could deal with that. I mean, he wanted that fire around that spirit, but as long as it was not out of control. And so Coach Wooden helped Bill Walton learn how to control himself.
How did you win 88 consecutive games?
Well, our teams won 73 of those 88 games, and again, it was such a special time. I really point to Coach Wooden, his leadership and his being a role model on and off the floor. He never made a big deal about the win streak. Number one, he always asked us to just, after the game, before the game, he always said, all I ask is that after the game, you be able to look in the mirror and know that you gave your best. And that's all we ever tried to do. And because of his brilliance in teaching fundamental basketball and team basketball and his practices, because it just literally spilled over in the game, our practices were as good, if not better, than our games. So when it came game time, we didn't, our expectation was to do what we did in practice, which was play at a very, very high level. And that's my best answer. I can't say, when I think about winning 88 games in a row myself, I'm kind of flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted by that. How do we do that? But then again, I think to our leader and our coach and our role model, Coach Wooden, and he was just a brilliant basketball mind.
Because the streak, you lost to Notre Dame in 71, and then you lost again in 74.
Yes.
So you were on the team that lost in 71?
I was not on that team. That was the Wixon Road team. They lost in 71. The Austin Carr had an unbelievable game that day. And then they won 15 and more, and then we won the next 73, and then lost in Notre Dame as well. So Notre Dame is a meaningful footnote to UCLA basketball.
So you're not a big Digger Phelps fan?
Well, honestly, no, I'm not. But I do respect him as a coach and as a broadcaster.
Now, you spoke at the memorial service for John Wooden. How did that come about, and what was that experience like for you?
Well, the athletic department contacted me and said the family wanted me to speak. And frankly, I didn't want to speak because I was so overwhelmed with emotion, but I knew what it would mean to his family. So I spoke. I decided to speak. And, I just tried to speak from the heart. And I did try and be brief because I remember, I thought a lot about him. I said, okay, how would he want me to handle this? Well, number one, he wouldn't want me to go up there and start crying. He wouldn't want me to go on and on and on about him. He would want me to get up, say what I had to say, and sit down. And that's what I tried to do. But it was only out of respect for the family that I did it, and the fact that they asked me to do it.
So you win championships at UCLA, you go to Golden State, and your rookie year, you win a championship there?
Yes, sir.
You must have thought you had like the Midas touch.
Well, you know what was interesting, when I was drafted 11th in the first round, there was a lot of question marks about me. People didn't think I'd be able to, the experts didn't think I'd be able to survive the rigors of the NBA or I'd be able to contribute. And the Warriors had a history of first rounders not panning out. So, those two things created kind of a real cloud, if you will, going up to the Bay Area. We were picked to finish 5th in our division that year. And, lo and behold, we got off to a fast start. I didn't even start at the first 10 games. I was coming off the bench, getting about 24 minutes. And, but we rolled off 10 in a row, and it was really a magical season. And those fans up there are terrific. And we got going, and, Then we had a tough series. Speaking of Chicago, we had a classic series with the Bulls with Chet the Jet, the Hall of Famer, Bob Love, Jerry Sloan, Dick. I can't think
Van Leer.
Van Leer, and Boerwinkle, Tom Boerwinkle, et al. Those guys. Man, we had a bruising battle, 7-game series with those guys, and I don't really know how we won, but we did, thank goodness. And going into the championship against the Bullets, we were expected to get swept 4-0. And every game we were losing at halftime by like 15, 20 points, but we wound up sweeping them 4-0. It was just unbelievable, incredible. And, Rick Barry, the Hall of Famer, was just fantastic. I mean, he really delivered for us. A lot of guys did. Clifford Ray, George Johnson, Butch Beard, Phil Smith. I mean, we just had a exciting team. And that team was exciting because we weren't expected to do anything. It was always us against the world. And, of course, our leader, Al Adams, the great Al Adams, just an unbelievable season there in Golden State.
Who gave you the nickname Silk?
That happened when I was a freshman. One of the guys, the students in the band, A-plus engineering students, to come to practice almost every day. And one day after practice in the dorm, I was going with my freshman teammates to get something to eat, and this guy came up to me and said, "Wow, Keith, you're like, oh man, you're like silk." He just blurted out silk, smooth as silk. And so my teammates got a big kick out of it, and they started calling me that. And then the next year, my sophomore year, Dick Enberg, the great Dick Enberg, the broadcaster, he heard my teammates call me that, and he started calling me that on the air, and it just stuck. It just stuck.
With Golden State, when you passed the ball to Rick Barry, did the ball ever come back?
Yeah. You know what? It did. Rick was a top-notch scorer, big-time scorer, but he was also a great passer. I mean, every year he kind of like led us in assists. And so, I knew to keep my eye on him because, he could let the ball go, or if he went for the shot, for the rebound. So, yeah, he did pass the ball once in a while.
Rick's philosophy is you should score 18 points in the NBA by accident because you should get 6 off layups, 6 off free throws, and 6 off shots. So 18 is easy, according to him.
Well, yeah, a lot of things. Free throws are very easy, according to him, but not for everybody else.
When you got drafted by Golden State, the Lakers had the 12th pick. Was there a part of you that says, I could wait another spot, I wouldn't mind going to L.A.?
No, there wasn't. I was just happy to get drafted, happy to know where I was going, happy to be, able to continue playing basketball and not have to decide what next, So I didn't really go through that process at all. And Golden State, I was born in Berkeley, and I had family in the Bay Area, so most major holidays we would go up to the Bay Area. So I was very comfortable. That was like home away from home, and so I was okay with that.
Then you go to the Lakers there, and the team basically at that time was on the decline because all the guys were getting older. Yeah,
they were. They had Kareem, though, which was a real positive. And, I actually wanted to stay in Golden State and finish my career there. But I think it was, at the time, the league and the game was growing from a rich man's hobby to big business. And I don't think the owner, Mr. Muley, could afford me or a lot of guys. A lot of guys wound up leaving there for one reason or another. So when the Lakers were interested, I was very excited. And Mr. Cook still owned the team then, and he was going through a bitter divorce, so it was kind of strange because he was in Las Vegas. He stayed out of California, so they couldn't serve him with some papers. But fortunately, it came together and it happened. And in the first couple of years, we had some old guys. Ron Boone, the great Ron Boone, was up in years. Lou Hudson, the great Lou Hudson, was, he was up in years. And but we did have a fine young player, Norm Nixon, Brad Davis, Kenny Carr. But then 1979 came, and bam, once again, magic. Dr. Buss buys the team, and they draft a young man, Irvin Johnson, out of Michigan State.
You should have taken David Greenwood, then the Bulls would have got magic.
Well, I'm glad we got magic. Although I've watched David at UCLA, being a UCLA guy, I was a big fan of his. But I'm glad we got magic.
What was playing for Pat Riley like?
Oh, it was really fun and really excellent. The first year or two, he was kind of learning the ropes because he came out of the broadcast booth, and the veteran players took him in. Jerry West, of course, and Bill Sharman, they endorsed him. So, we were open-minded, and Pat was a quick study, quick learner, and he had a burn. He had a burn to prove himself, and he was just a brilliant coach. Once again, his practices were very efficient. Very little waste of time. No standing around. He knew what he wanted. His the way he taught basketball was brilliant. Being able to run, catch, pass, and dribble, shoot, on the move, playing up tempo, and so he's a brilliant teacher of basketball, and he was a brilliant manager of human beings. He created a culture where the players had a peer culture, which kind of kept each other in check, and when that didn't work, then it went to him or to Jerry West, who you did not want to see.
I mean, you were loaded with Hall of Famers. There was you had Magic, Kareem, Worthy, and Adrian Dantley was with you guys for a while too.
Adrian Dantley, also Bob. Oh yeah, Adrian Dantley was with us. Well, he was pre-Magic.
Right.
Dantley. He got the year before, but he was with us. The great Adrian Dantley, and also Bob McAdoo,
Exactly.
Hall of Famer.
And Byron Scott wasn't too shabby either.
Oh, Byron Scott, Cooper, Rambis, Kupchak, none of those guys were too shabby.
Even Swen backed up Kareem for a while.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, one of your best games came in Game 6 of the '85 finals, and it's sort of overshadowed by the fact that Magic went from point guard to playing center when Kareem was hurt, and Magic gets 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, and you only had 37 points and 10 boards. You go, okay, well, what am I, chopped liver?
Well, no, I didn't quite feel that way. I mean, he was spectacular, no doubt about it, and I was happy for him and just as excited as everyone else to play. We did not want to play that game without our captain and our center, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, for him to play all 5 positions and do that. But I knew what I meant to that game. I mean, I hit all the big shots going down the stretch. So, I knew my role was critical, and so I understood the hoopla about Magic, and I was just very happy that we won the game, number one, and I was happy for him personally, because I think the week before or something, the Rookie of the Year voting came out, which Larry Bird got Rookie of the Year, but the vote was so embarrassing that it was a statement game for him. But more importantly, we won and we got another championship, so I'm okay with it.
Did you ever think to yourself, I want to have the team and be the leader of the team? It seemed like at UCLA, it was Bill Walton's team. And then when you joined the Lakers, it was Kareem's team. And then later on, it became Magic's team.
Yeah, those thoughts entered my mind, especially at Golden State. That was why I wanted to finish my career there, because I seemed to be the heir apparent to Rick Barry, and I would have been able to handle the ball more and have more of a run on the floor. But ever since I was a little boy, I understood, you can debate who the best player was in a game or a league or a season, but you cannot debate who won. And so, my whole upbringing and then Coach Wooden's influence set the tone for me that was my priority, winning. And if I was the best player, great. But if I wasn't considered the best player, that was okay too, as long as we won. But I know that I was a key to all that winning, and so that's what I'm most pleased and most happy about.
Can we debate who the best actor to come out of UCLA basketball was, you or Mike Warren?
Oh, that's easy, Mike Warren.
If you had wanted to, do you think you could have pursued an acting career beyond Cornbread Earl and Me?
I don't know. That world is so skewed toward height that the roles. There are a lot of roles written for guys. Quite honestly, and so I saw that. Early on. Now I'd have to be like a specialty role. Most of the roles are for guys 6'1", 6'2", and under, and so that was a real deterrent for me. Plus, I didn't like. I really didn't care for all the casting calls. So I don't know if I had the personality for it, but I don't think my height. I think my height worked against me in the acting world.
Reggie Theus, he considers himself still an actor.
I'm sorry, who's that?
Reggie Theus still thinks he's an actor.
Well, he can think whatever he wants. And that's fine. And, hopefully he's getting the work. And if he is, he's an actor. But he was certainly a great basketball player and a great Chicago Bull. And he's now coaching out here at one of the local colleges. And I certainly hope he does well.
Yeah, his nickname was Rush Street Reggie in Chicago.
Well, I won't ask why. I can get it.
Once upon a time, Coach Wooden was asked what the ideal player would be, and he responded, "I would have the player be a good student, polite, courteous, a good team player, a good defensive player and rebound, a good inside player and outside shooter. Why not just take Jamaal Wilkes and let it go at that?" When you heard that, how did you feel?
It sent chills down my spine, and it still does. I just did the best I could. I knew I was there to get an education. I tried to take advantage of that piece of it, and I did everything. I listened as carefully as I could. I did everything he said to do with a sense of urgency, and I'm flattered to no end that he said it. I really don't understand it, but it still chills. It still sends chills down my spine, and it just blows my mind that he singled me out after all the great student athletes that he had there under his supervision.
Who was the toughest guy to play against?
College or pro?
Both.
College, I would say it was David Thompson at North Carolina State. Even though we should have won that game, he was he was just created a lot of challenges. And in the NBA, he did too. In the NBA, well, first of all, you got to understand about the NBA, everyone is there because they're really, really, really good at something. And so everyone is really tough to play. I mean, really tough to play. It's a privilege, but it's a challenge, and it's a big job every night. But guys that immediately come to mind, and there are guys it's different reasons, but a guy like George Gervin, who's just so creative out there and has the run of the offense, it's just a lot of pressure defending him. A guy like Larry Bird, who, you look at him, he's slow, he's big, but he's just but he's one step ahead of everybody, and he's behind that three-point line, and you say, there's no way he can make that, and he makes it every time, and he's, getting rebounds, and he just does a lot of different things to help the team. a guy like Bernard King at New York when he got going. I mean, he was just impossible to stop. So those three immediate, and then you got a Julius Erving who just is so explosive and so exciting and dramatic. It's hard not to watch him during the game, but you just don't want him to get one of those plays, those dunks going, or those, super slick moves where it just ignites the arena. So those guys come to mind, but everyone is really challenging.
I know my favorite player growing up was Andrew Toney. That guy just was smooth too.
Oh, he was a monster out there. I had to guard him some too. I went, between the off guard and the small forward, and I dreaded, seeing him coming.
Well, they get you out there on the wing, and it's you and him. And if he gets one step, it's like, whoops. You got to hope that Kareem or somebody's by the basket to try to stop him.
Well, he was so effective outside too, as well as inside. So I mean, it wasn't, he could when he got going, he was just a nightmare, and he was one of the more difficult players to try and defend as well.
When you converted to Islam, your dad was a Baptist preacher. What was the family's reaction?
Yeah, my dad was a Baptist preacher. He was an open-minded guy. Always encouraged us to think about things. He was he admired Mahatma Gandhi and, some of the Eastern philosophy as well. But I started reading about that in college as a result of Malcolm X's autobiography, and I actually had begun to practice in college, but didn't announce it till later. And even though he was open-minded, but my mother took it very, very hard, and he did too. It was still a jolt to the family, and we resolved we were still family. And I think the fact that I didn't change my last name took a bit of the sting out, but in retrospect, I think they were disappointed, and yet I was confused too, because I thought it was a good thing, and yet I was causing disappointment, clearly disappointment. But we managed to move on and get by it.
How did you concentrate during those games with those Laker girls on the sidelines?
It was hard, man. It was hard, but it was also inspiring. You come over there, you sit on the bench, and it just took your mind off of stuff, and they're happy and they're excited, and the music and the fans are into them, and it was a lift. It was a big lift, but you couldn't watch them too hard, or else you get distracted.
I mean, you had the Laker girls and you had all the celebrities behind the bench, so there was entertainment not only on the court, but with the cheerleaders and the celebrities.
Well, yeah, the celebrities were there. You knew you'd see them after the game, so that was less of a distraction. But the Laker girls were really part of our success, I think, because they really kept us up, and no matter what had happened the play before, or the minutes before, you just went back right after it.
Did basketball prepare you in any way for life after basketball?
It helped, yeah. My family prepared me. Coach Wooden prepared me. That's really what Coach Wooden was about. And, my experience is great coaches care about their players. Coach Riley, he taught me stuff. Al Adams, I mean, they not only want to win, and they not only push you to win, but they care about you after basketball. And so it helped. Yes, sir.
How did it feel like going in the Hall of Fame?
I was so excited and appreciative. A lot of people thought I was already in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of, debate about it. But when I got the call and it was just so realistic. And then, I got the call during the Final Four. Then you wait till September, and the build-up it's just amazing. And they do a phenomenal job, the Hall of Fame, of really making you feel like you're on top of the world, and you and your family feel that way. They do just an awesome job, and it was just a lot of fun, a great experience, and I just, thank the fans and thank the voters.
Now, both the Lakers and UCLA retired your number in the last couple of years. Do you ever think to yourself, they must be doing this alphabetically by last name?
Well, no, I never looked at it that way, but that's an interesting thought, yeah.
Because I look at you and your career and I say, I'm like a lot of people. He's not in the Hall of Fame. His number's not retired. I mean, that's one of those things you just sort of make an assumption that already happened 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's how a lot of people reacted. You weren't in it already, but I wasn't, but now I am, so it's official.
What are you involved in now?
Well, I'm involved in a health challenge to provide a solution to obesity. I'm involved in financial education for families, and I'm also writing my memoirs.
Anything juicy that we should look forward to in your memoirs?
I can't tell.
Any Paula Abdul stories when she was a Laker girl?
I
guess we'll have to wait for it to get finished.
Yeah, it should be out next season. We thought it might be out this season, but we're going to take our time, and I think it'll be out next season. So maybe we can talk again next year.
Sounds good. I'm sure there's a lot of magic in that book.
Literally and figuratively. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day, and thank you to all your listeners.